The Regular Show Iceberg Explained. Regular Show. It's one of those cartoons that you can watch as a kid and then as an adult and still enjoy it. Even while in college, I can still relate to some of the characters. Filled with subtle adult jokes and experimental humor, this series is a classic because of its relatability to the real world, even though the main characters are a bird and a raccoon, and most of the adventures they go on are out of this world and trippy. The first episode aired on August 14th, 2009, and spanned all the way until the series finale on January 16th, 2017. With a total of 8 seasons and 261 episodes. I'm going to chunk some of the sections together just because some layers are a bit short. Shout out to a regular main man on Reddit who composed the iceberg itself. If you end up enjoying the video, be sure to subscribe and like, it helps out the channel a lot. Other than that, let's get into the iceberg and see how far it goes. Regular Show is an acid trip theory. This theory states how both of the main characters are constantly high or are on a drug trip, and us, the audience, are meant to see what they're hallucinating. In every episode, or at least in the majority, there are always weird things happening to them, to the point that everything starts becoming surreal, and they are always getting into situations that they have to solve. Most of the visuals of the surreal situations are supposed to represent their drug trips full effect. Some of them even resemble a psychedelic type trip. This theory is supported by the short film 2 and the AM PM, which I'll get into next. 2 and the AM PM. 2 and the AM PM is a short film created by the creator of The Regular Show, J.G. Quintel, which served as a basis for Regular Show. The short film consists of 2 gas station clerks working the graveyard shift, and one of them ends up sharing their candy, laced with drugs. The pair end up hallucinating, and the long-haired clerk looks like Mordecai, while the short-haired clerk looks like Benson. Here's a small clip of it. I would suggest checking it out on YouTube if you're a fan of the show.
This is too weird.
Yeah, this is getting a little weird for my tastes. Especially right now.
What are we gonna do when someone comes in for gas? We can't help people when we're like this. We can't help people when we're like...
The Naive Man from Lollyland. The Naive Man from Lollyland is another short film created by J.G. Quintel, which served as an origin for the character Pops. Sam Marin voices all of the characters in this short. He would later go on to become the voice of Benson, Pops, and Muscle Man in the actual show. The short starts off with the little man from Lollyland eating at a restaurant. When he finishes, he tries paying the bill with lollipops, and the waiter gets angry, while the manager steps in. The lolly man then argues with the waiter and manager, saying that it's more than enough, then tries to leave, but walks into the chef, who pushes him down and is telling him to pay up, but gets an idea. He goes to get his billfold, and whacks the waiter on the head with a chair. After being beaten by the manager and the chef, he then crawls out of the restaurant to get into a taxi. The lolly man says goodbye, United States, I hope one day we can become friends, ending the film. Obscure international edits. This entry is in reference to the show using obscure edits in international versions of the show. Most times when inappropriate words are used, they are censored, like crap is mostly changed in to crude, pissed is changed to multiple variants and stuff like that. Mordecai the Simp. This point is referencing the infamous simp meme and how it originated with Mordecai's behavior around Margaret and CJ. Some people argue that Mordecai was a simp in the beginning of the show, but ended up growing out of it in the series as it progressed. Planks. In the episode Rigby's Body, all of the uses of the word turds were changed to planks in the UK version of the show. Planks is most likely slang for turds in the UK, I guess. The death of Pops. In the ending of the series finale, Pops sacrifices himself so that the others can live. I wasn't sure about including this one, but I think it's significant and earns a spot on the tip of the iceberg, and also the creator of the original iceberg included it, so I thought I'd mention it. Poorly made Regular Show toys. This is referencing the poorly made toys for Regular Show. The figures lacked a lot of articulation, one example of this being the Skips figure being yellow instead of white. Regular Show 25 years later. Regular Show 25 years later is a comic book series taking place 25 years after the events of the show. The ending to Regular Show takes place in the future and depicts how everyone is resuming their lives. This comic book series is a direct continuation to that. People have mixed feelings about these comics and also whether it's canon or not. The creator of Regular Show wasn't involved, but since nothing has come out to contradict it, a lot of people consider it to be canon. The park was going to be a human zoo. The original idea was to have Mordecai and Rigby work at a human zoo. One example of this is a scene in the pilot episode of the show where we can see a bunch of cages in the background, which were supposed to be for humans. It ultimately ended up being changed to a regular park because it was shot down by an executive. The creator of the show was actually glad that the idea never came to fruition. JG said that the note he got to change the Regular Show's setting to a normal park was one of the best notes he's ever gotten because the mundane nature of a normal park is more relatable and let the magical parts stand out more. Power Tower. Power Tower is the 11th episode in Season 5 of Regular Show. The original airing of the episode had some animation problems as a result of the final shadings and backgrounds not being finished and other unfinished details, resulting in unusual brightness and odd coloring. Tecmo dressed as Spike Spiegel. In the Halloween episode Terror Tales of the Park 3, the character Tecmo is dressed up as Spike Spiegel. This is actually in reference to the characters Spike Spiegel and Cowboy Bebop because Tecmo and Spike share the same voice actor whose name is Steve J. Blum. Benson turning red/purple in the episode The Power. In the episode The Power, Benson turns a shade of red and purple when he shouts, "Now clean up this mess or you're fired." Benson usually turns red when he gets angry, but it's pretty odd how Benson literally only turns this specific shade of red this one time. Mordecai and Rigby are people. This theory is actually supported by the theory that Regular Show is an acid trip and also the short film I mentioned earlier, 2 and the AM/PM, since they're seen as regular humans before hallucinating and turning into a blue jay and gumball machine. Also, probably the strongest supporting evidence of this theory is that there's an interview where the creator of the show states, "But Regular Show, for me, I know that everyone sees them as a blue jay, gumball machine, raccoon, and human or whatever, but for me, they're all just people. So it's how they're perceived by one another, but it's not like a man and a bird. You know what I mean?" To be honest, I didn't really know what he meant, but if you have any theories about it, leave it in the comments. Skips references Star Wars. At the beginning of the episode, Skip says, "A long time ago in a high school far, far away," which is a reference to Star Wars. Mark Hamill is the voice actor for Skips and an actor for Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, so it's just a cool little Easter egg. Benson getting drunk off wings. This is pretty self-explanatory, but Benson gets drunk off wings. There's actually a theory that the wings are alcohol, since I think they just wanted to show the characters drunk, but couldn't use alcohol because it's a kid's show, so they replaced it with hot wings. Do Me a Solid original ending. I couldn't really find much about this one, but basically at the end of Do Me a Solid, Rigby was going to keep the videotape he made instead of destroying it. I guess that in the alternative he did. Mordecai never showing traits of being a blue jay. Mordecai never really shows traits of being a blue jay. He can't fly and isn't hunched over like other birds. Rigby runs on all fours, eats out of trash, and curls his tail up like an actual raccoon does. It's a bit strange how one of them does show traits of the animal they're depicting and the other doesn't. 2 and the AM/PM references and Regular Show. There's actually a couple of references to the short film I mentioned earlier, 2 and the AM/PM. And Regular Show. The scene where the police officer flew through the glass door of the gas station was reused for the episode. Benson Be Gone, when Susan, Benson's replacement, flies out of the house in a similar fashion. Also in the scene where the tall clerk asks the short clerk if he heard something and then farts is reused in the half-hour-long special Terror Tales of the Park, where Mordecai does the same thing, but this time to Rigby. I think it's pretty interesting how they added references to the short film since it's a somewhat off basis for Regular Show. Rigby's inconsistent egg allergy. In the episode Excellent, Rigby is allergic to eggs, but can be seen eating eggs out of the blender in a later episode. I think this might be an animation error, or Rigby could have just been lying about being allergic to eggs. This is also ironic because raccoons eat eggs of other animals in real life. Veronica. Benson was supposed to have a girlfriend named Veronica in a flashback from the episode Mordecai and Rigby's from season 1. This was ultimately cut from the episode but can still be seen in the storyboards of the episode. The Real Thomas censorship. I already mentioned the obscure international edits on the first layer, but this episode had so many changes and edits that it warrants its own spot. Some examples of this being a change of "Oh snap, we're all boned" to "Oh snap, we're all toast." Natalia punching Rigby was also changed to her slapping him. Any mentions of Russia are also replaced with the fictional country of Drunzia. There's a whole list of these changes, but I think you got the point already. Regular Show references and Close Enough. Close Enough is another show created by J.G. Quintel, so it's not surprising that the show has a couple of references to the Regular Show. One example is the wallpaper in the main character's kitchen features abstract art of each of the Regular Show characters, as well as the iconic park house. Take a look at this short clip of another reference.
That one!
There's actually a decent amount of references, and I'll put a link to a video I found on YouTube showcasing these references as well. Party Tonight music video. Party Tonight is an old music video promoting the show. It's pretty weird, but I guess you could go check it out. Paranormal Roommates. Paranormal Roommates is a pilot episode of a scrapped series by Benton Connor, who was actually a storyboardist for the show. The pilot episode also uses the same art style as Regular Show. Supposedly, the pilot was based on a short film Connor made while he was in college. The short film is kind of his own thing, but it's lost and can only be found in pieces. Pieces of the film can be seen in Rebel Taxi's video, which I'll link in the description if you want to check it out. How strong is Mordecai? In the episode Death Bear, Mordecai manages to tackle the bear seen in the episode. Grizzly bears can weigh up to 700 pounds. This leads people to wonder how strong Mordecai really is. It might be an oversight by the writers of the show, but then again, this is Regular Show, so crazy stuff like this is pretty normal. High Five Ghost Shadow. This is in reference to High Five Ghost being the only main character who casts a shadow. I think it's more of a joke than anything. Mordecai and Rigby and the Problem Solvers. There's an episode in the show The Problem Solvers with a brief cameo of a blue jay and a raccoon, which is pretty obviously referencing Mordecai and Rigby. Don't get me started on the show itself, it's something else. Billy Mitchell attempted to sue Cartoon Network. Billy Mitchell is a well-known figure in the gaming community who at various points has held the world record for high scores for classic arcade games such as Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. He is probably more well known as an antagonist in the documentary The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. Mitchell pretty much sues Cartoon Network for misappropriating his likeness, which sounds as stupid as it is. I'll explain it a little bit more, but first, I'm gonna give you a rundown of the main episode he's complaining about. In the episode High Scores, Mordecai and Rigby attempt to beat some teenagers' high scores at an arcade game in an attempt to gain respect. They end up beating the high scores of the teenagers and start getting close to the world record, and that's when BFG shows up, and they have to beat his high score. So Mordecai and Rigby are really close to beating him, and that's when BFG lies about his wife leaving him because he plays the game too much and that the high score is the only thing that he's got left to get Mordecai and Rigby to sympathize with him. Mordecai and Rigby try letting him win, but then BFG reveals that he lied about everything. So Mordecai and Rigby actually start playing again and secure the high score. So pretty much Mitchell lost because the court determined that GBF was a parody of Mitchell's appearance in The King of Kong, which is perfectly fine to do. There's actually a lot to this, but I've already spent a lot of time on this, so I'll just read a quote that I found in an article stating, GBF appears as a non-human creature, a giant floating head with no body from outer space, while Plaintiff is a human being. Rather than questioning his opponent's honesty, GBF simply begs his opponents to let him keep his high score, and when GBF loses his title, the character literally explodes, unlike the Plaintiff. The court also noted that Mitchell himself acknowledged that GBF was not a literal representation of himself, stating in his brief that the actions of this character make me look as some sort of monster or creature with no heart or decency. This is simply not me. Future Rigby's original fate. This one's a joke entry, so I'll just skip over it. Spontaneous combustion. Spontaneous combustion is a rare Regular Show commercial used to promote season 1. It uses their pilot designs for this commercial. Not a lot of people have seen this, so that's why it's low on the iceberg. The fate of the huge head. In the episode Really Real Wrestling, Pops unintentionally steals Huge Head's spotlight. Huge Head returned years later only to get sucked into a vortex. He was presumably stuck there until his skeleton was seen again in season 8. Unexplained trees in LO Governor. In the first episode of season 2, LO Governor, Pops is driving Mordecai and Rigby through the woods when Rigby looks out the window and sees a bunch of creepy trees with creepy faces staring directly at him. The trees serve no real purpose and aren't connected to the British taxi. It's not explained if the trees were really there or if it was Rigby's imagination. Deleted transformation scene. This point is just in reference to a deleted scene where Doug was going to transform into the main characters all at once. What I'm currently showing is the concept art. Margaret's messed up sense of humor, the party bus. Margaret's messed up sense of humor, the party bus, and Terror Tales of the Park 2. Margaret tells a weird story about her, Mordecai, Rigby, and Eileen getting on a bus that makes you feel older. When the bus goes in reverse, it makes the characters younger. At the end, the 4 make it out of the bus, but they all end up dying because their ages are reverted as the party bus continues backing up, and Margaret didn't see anything wrong with the story. She actually laughs after she finishes. This is especially freaky because the sense of humor Margaret has doesn't show up again at any point for the rest of the series. It simply comes out of the blue. Regular Hell. This is the name of an obscure VHS tape found by Baka Roboto on Twitter, reading, "Okay, so people are interested. I think it's a joke, to be honest. I actually got it from a Goodwill in a pile of recordable tapes. Someone probably left it there as a joke. I fast forward to the end and all it was an image and the audio. By this point, everybody knows that it's a meme, so you might as well just check it out." Terror Tales of the Park 2, deleted ending. Terror Tales of the Park 2 deleted ending is a very dark and twisted ending to this Halloween special that was cut for obvious reasons. You can find the original storyboards for the ending here. The original ending shows the gang looking at the ambulance where it shows what will happen to them. They see their dead bodies laying on the ground with the paramedics laying sheets over them, while the paramedic turns around, revealing that he's a zombie. The tow driver reveals that he's a zombie also, as he drives the truck down a portal to a fiery dimension, presumably hell, and ends as we pan out to show a jack-o'-lantern that says Happy Halloween. If you watched this far into the Regular Show Iceberg, thanks so much for the support. It means a lot and would mean even more if you subscribed and liked the video. Other than that, stay tuned as I will drop more videos soon. Later.